give you less information to have to worry about shredding. But while we're on shredding, everybody should own a crosscut shredder. Crosscut means that the cuts go diagonally across the paper so that it's difficult to put the strips together, because we know that there are people that will take the straight cut shreds and actually try to get them back together and reconstruct the documents. So any bills that you're thinking about discarding, shred them before they go to the trash. If you're actually disposing of any checks that for whatever reason are old and you're not using anymore, those should be shredded into shrapnel.
So old checks,
bills, statements from financial companies that you don't want, insurance bills, medical bills especially.
And why do you have to? Why should you have to shred, statements or medical bills?
Yeah, well, the problem is that each of these different kinds of communications has information that is specific to you and probably pretty sensitive. And the ID thieves work by getting information compiled from various sources about people like you and me and anybody watching. It's not that hard, unfortunately, to start looking in public places for information. And if the information that can be got from like the Register of Deeds or, for example, is a source of information about us and our property, they can start adding to that with like, okay, here's the credit card number that we got off a financial statement. Here's the social security number that we got from a medical bill. Here's some physical information. There's a birth date. And pretty soon they're compiling more and more information, and their ability to persuade somebody that they're actually us instead of someone impersonating us for criminal purposes starts to get pretty high. And without a credit freeze or a security alert on your credit file, a lender might have no way to know that it's not really the person that it looks like that's asking for credit. So all these pieces of information are valuable in compiling basically a profile of another person that can be used for fraudulent purposes. So any document that's got sensitive identifying information, whether it's medical, financial, or just personal, your date of birth, when you were married, anything like that you're thinking of getting rid of, just imagine what that could do in the hands of somebody who wants to impersonate you and commit frauds in your name, and run it through the shredder. Have it by your where you bring your mail in, or by your desk where you pay your bills or keep your records. And while you're at it, you might even consider taking the bills that you're going to keep and locking them in a safe, or just getting a bigger safe deposit box and taking that information downtown to your bank and having it locked up where it'll be secure. Certainly your Social Security card should go in a safe deposit box. And you can make photocopies of your credit cards front and back. You can take the valuable information that you've got and want to keep and put it all in one place. And that way, if you have the bad luck of having your purse or wallet stolen, you can go straight to your safe deposit box, get out the copies of your cards and other identifying information, whether it's a library card or a driver's license.
So you should have a copy of credit cards and such, and if one is ever missing, then you'd have the number, you'd call and report it right away.
Right, and you don't have to fumble around for it. You can just go and get the information, and you'll have it all at your fingertips. And you can also include it if you need to file a police report because you found actual misuse of your information. So,
what about on your personal checks? Some businesses will want your driver's license number, your phone number. Some people might have their address and phone number printed right on the check. Does that make a difference? Is that a problem? Or
yeah, no, that's a good point. From the merchant's point of view, they of course want to have as much information as they can get if they don't know you personally, so that if the check bounces, they have some way to figure out whose account it is and some way to get a hold of the person who wrote the check. As consumers, on the other hand, we'd like to put as little information on our checks as we can in case they fall into the wrong hands. So it's a little bit of a dilemma. If a merchant asks you for your Social Security number, there's no reason to give that out. If they ask for a driver's license number, then that's starting to be reasonable protection for the merchant. Now, the merchant can certainly look at your driver's license and verify for him or herself that you are who you say you are, without actually writing the number on the check, so that there's not that collection of information in your check that you would rather avoid. Now, of course, you can also, instead of carrying around only checks, you can bring cash, scratch that. Sorry about that, traveler's checks. And traveler's checks are as good as cash, and you can keep records of the numbers of the checks, and if they get stolen, you can go back to whoever issued them, whether it's AAA or through your bank or through some club you belong to, and get replacements. And they're as good as cash. You countersign them in the presence of the merchant. You can show a driver's license number, but generally speaking, the merchants will take these because they're pretty much as good as cash. And I wouldn't recommend that people convert thousands of dollars to traveler's checks, but having enough around that if they're asked to put information they don't feel comfortable with parting on a check, they've got some other way to pay.
Use that.
Yeah. Now, I've had the same account for about 20 years now, and all I have on my checks are my name. No address, no telephone number, certainly no social security number should ever be on a check. And I've got my checks are up in the 6,000s now. I'm sorry to say, it means I've spent way more money than I should have. But having that high number of a check, if you've had an account for a long time, itself may give the merchants comfort. And in fact, I have never actually been asked to for permission to record a driver's license number or anything else on a check. They will generally simply take the check with simply a display of a piece of picture ID.
Tracy, we only have a couple minutes left, and I think this would be a good chance to maybe say what someone should do if they fear they've been a victim of identity theft. You know,
absolutely.
What should they do?
Well, the first thing they should do after they panic is they should figure out exactly, if they're aware what information was taken, make a list of what is missing, if like a wallet or purse has been stolen, and contact all the credit card companies, contact the Secretary of State if the driver's license has been stolen. If there have been checks stolen, contact the bank. Let the people know who are extending credit to you that there's been a problem. If there's actually been identity theft and you've got some reason to believe that some fraud has been committed in your name, we advise people to file a police report. You can do that in Michigan now. In fact, the police departments will take your police report. They won't say, well, the fraud happened in California, you have to go there. You can now you have a right to file a police report where you live. File that police report. The Federal Trade Commission has a lot of money from Congress to be the nation's agency that fights identity theft. There's a toll-free number that we'll be able to show at the end of the program where they can call for immediate assistance and information as to what they should do to protect themselves. Our office, the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division, has a number of consumer alerts and other pieces of information for people who've been victimized by identity theft, but probably should start reporting far and wide to the credit reporting agencies, get security alerts on their credit histories, make sure that they go to the police and file a police report. They should fill out an affidavit explaining what happened, and get informed as best they can about their options, and stay on top of it until they believe that their case has been really eradicated. If it's a credit card instance, usually getting a new credit card with a different number will often take care of the problem, but it can be much more complicated than that, unfortunately. So I did also want to mention one last precaution that everybody should take. Under current federal law, all of us have a right to get a free credit report every year from each of the major credit reporting agencies. So we have a separate consumer alert on your right to a free annual credit report. If you're a victim, you get additional reports with no charge as well. But even if you're not victimized, you should stagger your requests every 4 months. So that's one agency every 4 months, and contact them and ask for a copy of your free annual credit report. By doing it every 4 months, you spread out the information a little bit. The three different credit reporting agencies don't necessarily all have the same information, but you increase your chances of catching ID theft a little sooner if you stagger your requests. And go through that credit report. Make sure that every account listed on there is something that you opened personally, or if you have a joint account with your spouse, that it was done by your spouse. And make sure that the balance looks accurate. If there are any charges or any other items on there, if it says that you're in bankruptcy and you're not, possibly there's been an ID thief out there who's filed bankruptcy in your name. It sounds incredible, but we get calls from consumers that have actually discovered that they're supposedly in bankruptcy. It's an ID thief trying to throw the authorities off the trail.
Well, Tracy, thanks very much for coming on my program. Again, Tracy Conneborn, Assistant Attorney General. Shred your documents, shred your credit card bills, get your free credit reports.
And be careful.
And be careful.
Yeah. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for being
having
on
me
my
again.
program.
Okay.